Okay. Hello, hello. Good to see you guys. Hey, everybody. Hi. All right, I'm excited for tonight. It is gonna be a good one. Hello, hello. All right, well, I am getting set up here. I would love to hear where everybody is from in the chat. We've already got a couple of people typing in hello from Highlands. Well, I'm in Perth, Australia. I'm gonna get this shared on Facebook. Hey, Dr. Bart.
Hello there, dear. I got some friends with me tonight as well. You'll see Jimmy's in the house. My wife just entered the house. Kelly, you're live if you didn't know that. I don't think she knew she was live there. That was kind of funny. And then I got another dog over here. So I got a couple friends here tonight to join me here. So anyways, I'm super, super, super excited about tonight's talk. All week, once I introduce this, everyone's been chatting like they're wondering like, how do I crush sugar? And I promise you, I've got it here. So who's over there? Ralph, good to see you. Elise, good to see you. Everyone else, I don't have my glasses. Yes, I do. I got them right here. I'm holding off on my glasses. I'm practicing good eye health. I'm trying to get my eyes stronger here. So anyways, I'm super excited for tonight's talk because this is big stuff. And I say that all the time probably, yet this is big stuff. You tackle sugar, you win, period. All right, so you guys see my friends back there? Jimmy and Stevie. Last week I had Paris with me. She's downstairs waiting for dinner. So anyways, again, big topic tonight. And you guys do your thing, spread this out, share this out. I go as far as saying this for everyone. We're going to talk about sugar in just a moment, sugar cravings, carb cravings. I'm going to talk about it all. I promise you, I'm going to give you Mac Daddy ways that you are absolutely going to be able to beat the sugar cravings, beat the carb cravings. It will have a huge impact on your life. So do your thing, spread love, keep sharing it out, keep doing your thing. And then also in the chat with me while I'm here tonight. I want the questions because everybody has a sugar issue, even if you don't think you do. And we'll talk about what I mean by that in just a moment here. All right. Karen, you getting ready for me?
Awesome. I think it is. Sorry? Yeah?
Are you ready for me here? Yeah.
I'm ready. So I want to start by introducing Dr. Bart because we're all so grateful that you come on every week and share this info with me. So Dr. Bart has been a healthcare provider for over 20 years at his amazing clinic in Seagrove Beach, Florida, which is Balance Health Studio. And I know a lot of you guys on tonight may have been there or know that health studio. He's also the founder of the Health Edge program, which is a virtual health program for executives and entrepreneurs wanting to up-level their health. He's worked with thousands of people, including celebrities, athletes. We'll see if we can get on the show in later episodes. And he's always so generous with his time and knowledge. So yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Bart.
Well, you are welcome. And thank you from all the way from where in Australia are you?
Perth. I'm on the West Coast.
The West Coast. I gotta tell you, I still don't have that whole thing down. Like you're a day ahead of us or something like that.
It is. It's Wednesday here. The future looks good, guys. The future is amazing.
I love it.
Seriously, look forward to Wednesday. It's looking good over here.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to this topic tonight. So in a moment, I'm going to lay out a bunch of things. But for the most part, I want to start off by saying, listen, you win this battle against sugar. You win this battle against carbohydrates in that cravings that we always have. You are moving light forward, light steps ahead in years of making your health into something better, leveling up your health. So, it's interesting, Karen. I get all the time people will say to me, "Well, I'm not really. I don't have. I don't crave sweets. I don't crave sugar." And usually what I'll tell them is this: listen, in my book, I've been doing this clinically for 20 plus years now. And until proven otherwise, everybody is addicted to sugar or carbohydrates. And I'm going to explain how they're really one and the same. And I'm going to also explain the subtle differences. If someone craves sweets or chocolate or sour or whatever it may be, I'm going to kind of go through all those little things there. Yeah, I will tell you, everybody, in my opinion, basically has some type of a sugar addiction. And I know that because I've had one, no doubt about it. So I want to start by just sharing that just a little bit. Look at my friends here. I'm so used to this, so I hope it doesn't distract anyone listening. So everyone, listen, if you have any questions about it, there's a little chat button there. Make sure you share your questions with me. I will get to them for you. But let me share you a little bit about my story, why I think everyone, for the most part, has some level of sugar addiction until proven otherwise. So my tribe locally knows that I've been doing these cleanses every year for years now. I don't know, probably 5-10 years, I don't know. And every January I do these huge cleanses. And one of the things that I do is it's a blood sugar cleanse. We're going to dive deep into blood sugar tonight. And the interesting thing about that is the biggest challenge most people always ask me, what about my alcohol? Which I'm going to talk about that as well. And what I've discovered is this, is that most people can give up their alcohol, but they can't give up their sweets. I'm going to go on record and tell you that I think 85% of the people in our country, maybe yours too, that are diagnosed as alcoholics are not alcoholics, that they are sugarholics. And if we can fix this sugar thing, we can literally change the face of health in our country and the world. I'm going to go a step farther here, and some people might want to even hear this, but I'm going to be bold and tell you this. Listen, our pandemic right now, it is a sugar pandemic. This is the issue that's going around in the world right now. We have 95 to 98% of all of the mortality when it wraps around COVID right now is because of three main things: heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. And all three of those things, what do they have in common? Sugar. So yeah,
that's huge, right?
Huge. So, and listen, I'm not asking anyone here to like try to fix the world's problems by getting off sugar, but it takes, one of us, one at a time, we can certainly make ourselves healthier by leaning ourselves a little bit away from sugar. And here's one of the reasons that I'm pretty passionate about this topic, but also know that this is winnable. I promise you it's winnable. I'm going to give you a strategy. I'm going to give you a month-long strategy, but I will tell you, there's going to be people here that are going to crush this thing in 2 to 3 days. You follow what I say, and it's not just a matter of having incredible willpower. I'm going to give you some weapons and some tools that will work. Because how do I know they're going to work? Because I do this clinically every single day, and I've been doing this for years for people specifically with blood sugar, helping them kind of, bat this sugar issue down. Karen, you and I were joking earlier how, like, literally, we know we shouldn't eat sugar. We know we shouldn't eat cookies. And yet there'll be like a stack of cookies. You go to a party, and next thing you know, you're reaching. You're like, no. You have this conversation going on in your brain. You're like, no, don't eat that. And you're reaching for it. I don't want that. It's not good for me. It causes inflammation. It makes me fat. I don't know, whatever. And grab it. And you're still having the conversation all the way to your mouth. And next thing you know, you're still eating it. I'm going to dive into that. That's more than just willpower. And I say that because I want a lot of the people out here listening tonight, they're going to watch us on Facebook and see it in a replay, to give themselves a break and stop beating themselves up. So I'm going to go into the biochemistry of this, and I'll talk to you about the receptors. And this is not just willpower. We've got to fix some things on a cellular level. So I'll go there in just a moment, but I really want to share with you why I consider everybody a sugar addict or a carbohydrate addict until proven otherwise. And it goes like this. So in our country, for the most part, this is how nutrition goes. You grow up on milk and cereal, carbohydrate, sugar. Then you switch a little bit later in life, you get to peanut butter and jelly and a glass of milk. Sugar. Bread, sugar, milk, sugar. And those who think that milk is protein, it's not. It's sugar. It's lactose, right? So you got sugar. Then you get some antibiotics, and they break down your gut flora. And now you can't break down things like fiber, and you can't break down things like good fats and protein. So you eat more carbohydrates and sugar. And we go through this cycle year in and year out. And this is it over and over and over again. And this is how it happens. This is how it happened to me. And I had a very loving mom. She always tried to feed me well, and she always tried to, make me feel well. The challenge is the more sugar that we have, whether it be in the source of sugar or carbohydrates, whatever it may be, when we have more of this, it downregulates our immune system. So the pattern often looks like this, and this is why I'm pretty passionate about this. You do the thing, your kids are crying. And listen, moms, hear me closely here. I know kids can be an absolute pain in the ass. I was one of them. But I also know that you hold the power to let them know whether or not they're going to be eating sugar, candy, or cake tonight. So what happens when I was young, it went like this. Like I was a really, really picky eater. My brother was not. He was a great eater. He would eat his meat and vegetables, all that kind of stuff. I did not. So the only thing I'd eat were things that had carbohydrates. The more carbohydrates I ate, the more sugar that I ate, the sicker I got. My brother had an incredible immune system, never got sick. I get sick all the time. So my mom, like any other loving mom, would bring me off to the doctors. And then when I went to the doctors, they'd give me what? Antibiotics. Yeah. And listen, it was all out of love. So I'm not calling anyone wrong or right here. I'm just saying this is the process. So I did that. And then the antibiotics, I'll get the sugar, the carbohydrates, they would typically lead to things like sinus infections, which they do, folks. If you got a sinus infection issue, you got a sugar issue. That's an inflammatory issue caused by carbohydrate influx. So then for me, it went from sinuses to earaches. So I'd get these ear infections and sinus infections. So I'd go antibiotic after antibiotic after antibiotic. I remember walking out of the doctor's office with a little orange drink that they would give you to make you feel good. It was a little sugar drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, real stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so this is how we've treated things in our country. And this is why, if for some reason you're outside of this, power to you, like hats off to you, because if this hasn't been your paradigm, power to you. So until proven otherwise, and how do we prove that we're not a sugar addict, how we're not a carbohydrate addict? Get off them. Cold turkey, not just when it's convenient, but we'll talk about tonight some things that you can do. And also, hey, listen, don't eat sugar or carbs for 2-3 days. Get through that and tell me you didn't have any issues. You're probably not an addict. All right.
But as you said, most people, I mean, I think we were talking earlier about how much that is. Like we use food when we're growing up as a comfort. We use sugar as a celebration. Every time something happens, every time something happy happens, every time something sad happens. And so we really grow this attachment to sugar and carbohydrates and these kind of foods.
Yeah, it really is. And I want to make sure everyone understands that it doesn't make you a bad person or a good person if you found yourself in this vicious cycle. And I know the reason there's so many people on there, the reason I got so much feedback this week about this topic is because people know that they have issues and they cannot stop eating it. And I'm going to dive into it. We are going to absolutely smash sugar cravings down tonight. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about some of the symptoms that can get caused and conditions that can get caused when we're constantly eating sugar. So I guess before I even do that, when I talk about sugar, let's just talk about what does it cause in the body. I think that's a good place for us to start. We all know sugar is not good for us, but why? Like what's wrong? Let's put aside the fact that you might gain a couple pounds or get a couple, acne or something like that. Put all that aside for a second. When we have sugar in the body, we have increased blood sugar. And that's where it starts. That by itself is where it starts. Once we have the increased blood sugar, then your adrenals have to respond to tell your body like how to manage blood sugar. And then your body releases something called insulin. And insulin, that's what diabetics have to end up using to get type 2 diabetes, right? Insulin is a hormone that the body releases to try to get sugar out of the bloodstream and push it back into the cell. So it's not floating around. Why would the body have such an incredible built-in innate system going on? Because that sugar destroys the arteries. It literally shreds them down. That sugar shreds those arteries down and it creates inflammation. That inflammation leads to high cholesterol. That leads to heart disease. This is what leads to diabetes. So when we constantly have sugar floating through the body, high blood sugar, we are destroying our bodies from the inside out. And it's as real as it gets.
And again, we're not just talking about like lollies or
I don't think we have lollies here.
Sweet, sorry.
Sweet,
Candy.
yes. Candy. Yes.
We call them lollies, yeah, like in Australia. But we're not just talking about that. We're also talking about other carbohydrates, breads? What are we talking about in terms of every time we talk about sugar? What kind of foods are we talking about making this effect on our bloodstream?
This is super, super important for all of us to understand that everything you put into your body, so let me back up. All carbohydrates, all of them, will be converted into glucose, into a source of sugar within the human body. So all carbohydrates get converted into sugar. The simpler that carbohydrate is, the more rapidly it happens, and the more damage it causes. So bread is a simple carbohydrate. So I'll be honest with you, the physiological impact of a loaf of bread or a couple slices of bread, relative to like a Snickers bar or a chocolate bar, about the same. It's literally about the same. So when someone tells me, well, I don't crave sweets, let me just grab this little girl. I don't crave sweets. She's going to help us tonight. I just eat bread. And I'm going to dive into those different cravings in just a moment here. But bread is the same thing. It just tells us a little different mechanism about how and why you get your sugar. And I'll talk to you about it because some of these mechanisms tell us that. I'll give you an example. And I'm going to have one of my team members here. I made this little chart for you guys to get some of this stuff. It's super, super cool. If you crave sweets, one of the things that it tells you about your physiology is you do not burn fat for fuel. We're going to let her stay for a moment. So if you crave sweets, you do not burn fat for fuel. That means that you are a good sugar burner. That in order to have energy, you need more sources of carbohydrates or sugar. So if that's sweets for you, it means you do not burn fat for fuel. If you like starches, that's a little bit different. If you like starches, that's telling me that most likely you actually have an adrenal issue.
Okay.
You cannot break down your amino acids to get enough tryptophan, which we talked about last week, and you can't make the hormone called serotonin. So there's subtleties here. So if you crave sweets, think flat out, you cannot burn fat. Why does that happen? Why do you crave sweets when that happens? Fats are what satiate us. That's what tells your body you're full. So if you eat fats, you go out for a meal and you have a bunch of good fats, good healthy fats, and afterwards you're craving something sweet, you're not breaking that stuff down. Your metabolism is not burning fat for fuel. So that's sweets, that's one. The next one is starches. Starches work a little bit different. So they're breads. They'll tell us that you have an adrenal issue.
Okay.
So if you crave bread all the time, think, man, my adrenals are getting taxed, and more than likely you have an amino acid, a gut issue that goes with this. I'm going a little deep, and I'm not going to explain all these mechanisms, but just following along here. And that most likely you can't produce enough serotonin. And so that serotonin is what gives you motivation and makes you feel good, etc. So remember, all the time when we eat sugar, we have carbohydrates, we're going to get a little spike of dopamine.
Yeah.
And dopamine is what makes us feel good. And to what you mentioned earlier, Karen, that's why when we have a baby's born, we have cupcakes.
Yeah.
And when someone dies, we have cupcakes. Because they both make us feel good for that moment. And I think everyone listening to this today, we know, like, you're not feeling good. Like, for me, I'm a stress eater. Like, no doubt about it. It's football season. I'll be walking around the house trying to eat everything that's not, nailed down. So because it gives you that moment. Yeah.
Football season. That's a stressful time.
Yeah, it's tough time around here. So, all right, let me roll through because I want to give you a bunch of these, and then we're gonna get into some strategies here. So,
yeah,
I talked about sweets, talked about sugars not burning fats, and then of course your sweets and starches. Again, we're not burning fat. You're looking more at adrenal issues. Salt.
Okay, yeah. What if
you
crave
salt?
That's a really common one as well.
Yeah, that means you got an adrenal issue. Okay, so salt, especially electrolytes, are one of the main fuel sources for your adrenals. It means you are starting to create an adrenal insufficiency. Your body does not have the nutrients to keep up with your stress loads. So you're craving salts. So here I am when people say, hey, do you crave sweets? Yes. Do you crave salts? Yes. And this is real because so you got stress, you grow up, your body can only digest your carbohydrates and your sweets and stuff like that. And then you got a lot of stress going on, you're taxing out your adrenals, and now you're craving sweets and salts. But any craving will let us know that we have a deficiency. So go a little farther. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say, I think that's like actually, I'm just going to stop you there because it's a really good point. Because a lot of the people, often when I talk to about cravings, they really feel like they should be better. It's my willpower. I ate it. Like they get really, like it's something they should just be able to like power through. I should have just been able to stop it. And I think what's really important about what we're talking about and some of these things is that there's like reasons behind why you're craving these things. And if you take some of the like guilt away and actually just look at it from a bit of a detective point of view, hey, why am I craving these things? Cool, I'm craving these things at what time? What's going on in my life? You know, we're going to talk about there's some testing. There's things you can do. So it's just taking some of the emotion away from it, I guess, and getting like actually looking at what's happening in your body.
Yeah, and in a minute, I'm going to describe what happens to the receptors. And I think when I do that, I know when I do it in clinic, I'll often draw this little board. I won't be able to do it tonight, but I'm going to give you a good visual, help you understand why it's not just your willpower. It's well beyond that, but I do have an answer for it too, which is cool. So I want to talk, let me go back to some of the other cravings, because there's some other popular ones. Chocolate is a popular one. Ice is a popular one that people will crave ice often, and fats are often an important one. And some people every now and then will crave sour stuff. So let's go to that. Chocolate. If you crave chocolate, again, we've got an emotional and adrenal issue. Okay. Your emotions have beat up your adrenals, lowered your adrenal output, and more specifically, when we have the chocolate issue, that you have, again, low serotonin levels. So if you're craving chocolates, know that that is in the root of it. You're fatiguing your body because of your stress. And I see that a lot. So that's a real important one for us to be kind of paying attention to. And another little side effect there, if you're craving chocolate, which I'm okay when we have dark chocolate, and it's at least 70%, you know, a pure chocolate, and it's organic, because it also indicates that you're probably deficient in magnesium. So we put those two together, and then we go, how do we get deficient in serotonin? You need magnesium to be able to convert tryptophan into serotonin. So there's all these biochemical things that are well beyond us just trying to make a good decision whether or not I should eat this. So fats, if you crave fats, like you're like craving French fries, you're craving, you know, a big fat burger, like, or fried chicken or something like that. It tells us you don't have enough bile. So bile is something that's made from your gallbladder. And what it'll mean that you're not breaking down your fats again, and you can't absorb them. This is kind of important because it also tells you you're not absorbing your fat-soluble vitamins, things like your omega-3s and your fish oils. So all these cravings have way different implications than just like, you know, I'm out of control here, or maybe I should listen to my body because I'm craving to. Sometimes, just like you said, we've got to back up a little bit and ask, what's going on here? Why would I be craving chocolate or these random foods here? Most of the time, they're indicating some type of deficiency that's going on.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so fats. So we've gone through, I guess all the cravings, and it looks like we've got a link in the chat here with the craving indicators sheet. So we're also going to send that out as a replay. We do have a question though. How does sugar affect the nervous system?
Great question. Yeah, it taxes it. So when you first take on sugar, it actually stimulates yang, which is in Chinese medicine, that's your fire, or now we would call that your sympathetic nervous system. So it enhances it. So yeah, listen, sugar is a good fuel source. If you want to burn fires, like adding, you know, gasoline right onto a fire, poof, it burns. Big explosion. The challenge is that it burns out your nervous system. So make no mistake, listen, you know, sugar ends up as its end result is a depressant. And we got to be really mindful because we burn out the nervous system. So whoever asked that question, if you're always keeping the motor running and always sparking, like you're keeping your fire running because you're pouring gasoline on it, you'll burn the whole thing out. Great question. So let me, just so we have a clear, like, I want people to really wrap their brains around that sugar is more than just weight gain and weight loss. I want to talk about some of the common symptoms that happen when we end up having sugar as our primary fuel source in our life. And I'm just going to roll through. So we've got heart disease, diabetes, we've got obesity, we've got things like endometriosis, we have things like headaches, fatigue, fibromyalgia, arthritis, autoimmune conditions. These are all sugar-based issues. Hashimoto's, same thing. So listen, this is what I mean, sugar is a pandemic. Like sugar, if you tackle this, you are leapfrogging, you are literally leveling up your health. And I know because this was the biggest one thing that I did in my life, that I started to manage my blood sugar. So real quickly, you mentioned earlier about testing.
Yeah.
So
tell us your story when it comes to that.
Yeah. So I'm going to make the story real short. So you can test your blood sugar, and it's a real simple blood prick. You prick it, and you prick your finger, and you get this little strip, and it tests your blood glucose levels. And right away, that gives you a number. Like it takes 2 seconds. Like you prick it, you check it, you look at it. We like those numbers to be under 100. Ideally, clinically, I like to see those numbers under 90. I like to see people hang out between like 65 and 85 for just these lean, mean, fighting machine bodies that are very, very metabolically strong, and that they can burn any type of food as a fuel source. The challenge here, when I first tested mine, and I'm roughly saying this about 7-8 years ago, is with a bunch of some of the best doctors around the world, quite frankly. We're up in Atlanta, and we're doing kind of an experiment where we're taking the whole group of us and we were fasting. We're checking our blood glucose level. Now, I'll preface this by saying, at the time I was testing this, I was eating clean. I only put whole foods into my body and green shakes every single day. But I was a snacker. I was a grazer. My wife would always joke and say, "You're never hungry because you're always eating." And I had learned back in the old day, man, keep my body moving, like keep the food coming in and like keep up your metabolism, all that crap. And one day we'll cover that in like a keto or a fasting conversation. But anyways, during this weekend, I'm testing my blood sugar levels. It's 130, 140, 115, 120. I am pre-diabetic. Lean and mean, but my blood sugar, my inflammatory markers skyrocketed. And it rocked me. I was like, this got to be wrong. I was testing them nonstop, one after another. 15, 20 tests later, fingers bleeding everywhere. I figured this is enough, right? They're not all wrong. They're not all faulty. I have high blood sugar. Yeah. And it was an eye-opener for me. And that's why for a lot of people listening to this, you don't know until you either test or just back off. You should not get hangry. Hangry it is not a food issue. It is a blood sugar imbalance, AKA a hormone imbalance. So the goal now is, how do we start to fix some of these things? So I want to give one more example, because I think if people understand this, they'll maybe give themselves a little bit of an emotional break. And I promise you, I got strategies that are going to work. By the time we get off here, I'm giving you strategies. They will work 2-3 days for some, a week for some, a month for others. Crush your sugar cravings, including your carbohydrate craving. So what's that?
Let's also, who in the chat wants these strategies? Like who's relating? Because like as you're talking, I'm like, this is all me as well. So let us know in the chat or on Facebook if you're listening. Put a yes down, or a snacking. Like, do you snack? Do you have some of these cravings? Let us know. I'd love to see who's feeling this in terms of, they've been dealing with some of these things too.
Yeah, and listen, the truth is, I know if I got a chance to go on here and I talk to Bobby or talk to Ralph or talk to Lisa or any of the people that I can see up here right now, they'd all say, yeah, I had them, and maybe they still have them, or they've beaten them down. I see one person right here. I know she's beaten them down now. Anyway, so let me give this analogy, and this is what happened. So I want to bring everyone all the way back to we probably learned this in high school. We learned about our receptors, and I mean like the taste receptors that we have. I think that's a high school thing, where you learn that you have sweet receptor on your tongue, you have a sour, you have a bitter, and you have a salty. There's actually a couple others we've learned in science, but those are the 4 primary ones we have. And I think about right now, the foods that we do and don't like, or that we eat. I talked about earlier, growing up, and I grew up like most other people that are watching this. I grew up on milk, I grew up on cereal, I grew up on peanut butter and jelly, I grew up on pizza, you name it, right? You grow up on your carb junkies. So, and we're eating some of these times 6, 7, 8, 10 times a day. Fuel sources being carbohydrates. So is it any wonder that 150 pounds right now is what the average American consumes in sugar a year? It's an insanity, but it's sneaky. It's through bread, it's through potatoes, it's through, apple juices and all this other kind of stuff. So those 4 things. So imagine now that those 4 things make up your tongue, and on your tongue you have these receptors. I'm a sports guy, so I think of the little baseball gloves, all right? And they are looking for sweet things. They're looking for salty things. They're looking for sour things. They're looking for bitter things. And you got these baseball gloves, and you keep chucking them stuff. You give them a little piece of ginger, and then the bitter guy comes up. You give them a little piece of apple, and then you get the sweet and maybe a little sour, and you get to feed both of those. So nature is always fulfilling all four of those. And then we get into our processed foods, and we shift away a little bit from God's garden. We start to eat things like bread, and it just fills one. It just fills that one thing of the sweet. So it fills it, and we keep feeding that. And then we have the milk, and that's the sugar. And then we have the peanut butter and jelly, and it fills it. And that baseball glove starts to get bigger and bigger, and it has to multiply because those other guys, they're not even getting fed. So imagine, so I got a whole bunch of dogs. Imagine if I feed one dog and I let the other three starve, right? That is what happens. So the receptors in your body start to expand. The sugar receptor expands. It crowds out the little receptor down here for bitter. And the bum rays, and I talk about bitter because bitters are a huge part of your immune system. If I ask people right now, how many like bitters? And they're like, well, I don't know. I kind of maybe had one last week. Things like arugula, things like apple cider vinegar. I have to twist people's arms to get some apple cider vinegar in it. But the magic of apple cider, it doesn't even have any vitamins in it. It's a bitter. It elicits the bitter receptors in the human body. And that wakes up our system, wakes up our metabolic body. The core reason we tell people to put lemon in the water, it's bitter. It initiates the bitter and the sour. So we get these other receptors to wake up. So here right now is the sugar receptor. And then you got these little pockets, sour, bitter, and then you got salty's pretty big. But if we expand these, it'll shrink those. And that's what we got to do. Not that easily. It's easy said than done. But I got a way to fix this. So in a moment here, I'm going to show you how we shrink this without having willpower. How do we shrink that and get these guys to wake up? We need to make good decisions to get these guys to wake up.
Yeah, awesome. All right, cool. What about, if we're talking about other causes of cravings, what about dehydration? Does that cause cravings?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So Karen, so what happens when we get dehydrated? Your body starts to run low on energy. And what'll happen is when you run low on energy, those little receptors say, hey, how do we get energy fast? And it knows that if you pour gasoline, if you pour sugar on it, carbohydrates on it, boom, you will get some energy. So one of the bigger challenges I see clinically, huge challenge, I think people are more and more privy to the whole water thing, but nonetheless, dehydration will mimic hunger, and it'll mimic your want for sugar. It'll mimic your want for bread. So next time you think that you're hungry, one of the great things to do, just grab some water, drink some water. I'm gonna drink some water.
Yeah, yeah. We've got a question here from Eric. Is like, what's the best time of day to take apple cider vinegar? Is there a best time of day?
No, but I would say that think about it, Eric. You're trying to wake up the bitter receptor. Wake it up early, wake it up midday.
Yeah.
So if you can wake up those bitter receptors prior to the first meal and then prior to that second meal, fantastic.
Yeah. Or even try some of the bitters while you're having your sugar craving. I mean, you won't feel like eating it, but eat it. And it's amazing how much it just like takes the edge off that sugar craving. You've given yourself something else. It's like, it just changes that feel for the sugar craving, or at least try it. So with some water, have something bitter, see if you can do some of these things to stop. So what about, like, why do people feel so good after they eat sugar though? Like people, get that rush and so they feel good.
Yeah, well, it's an instant source of energy. So let's not kid ourselves. It's an instant, like, boom, you're awake for a second.
Yeah.
It crashes fast, but more so what happens in the brain. It releases a neurotransmitter called dopamine. And dopamine is our feel-good hormone. The challenge here, and this is how sugar from the biochemistry also causes depression. The more sugar you eat, the more dopamine you use up.
Yeah.
The more you use up, then you don't have it there, especially in times when we are out of balance, when we're emotionally out of balance, when we have things going on in our lives. And that's the absolute vicious cycle. And I think if you guys are hearing me closely, what happens here, and I think a lot of you will be able to relate to this, something happens. We get stressed. Football season for me, but it could be a loss of a loved one, could be a move, could be COVID, could be something. And the next thing you know, we start to eat a little bit of sugar. and we're under more stress, is taxing our adrenal glands more, because your blood sugar is actually first regulated by your adrenal glands. So now we're kind of overworking everybody. We're eating worse, and now we're running out of dopamine. The very thing that makes us feel good and balanced. And then we say, all right, that's it. I'm done with the sugar. And then you find yourself depressed. And the only thing that makes you feel a little better in that moment is one more piece, one more cookie, another piece of bread, another chip, or whatever it may be. So that is the vicious cycle, and it's real.
Yeah. And that's what we're going to give you some strategies to break, because it's a vicious cycle that a lot of us end up finding ourselves in, for sure. What about alcohol? Let's talk about alcohol for a minute.
Yeah. Right. So again, I'm going to keep it real tonight, and I'm going to give you my real feel on alcohol, and I'm going to kind of categorize it back into just one of these things. Listen. So alcohol, no doubt, is sugar. So I usually get a question, something like, what's the best alcohol to drink? Well, it depends on what you're looking for.
Low sugar alcohol.
Yeah, low sugar now. So I'm going to bypass that. I'll answer. No, and maybe I'll answer. But I want to be real about it, because I've seen some other doctors say, all in moderation. I'll tell you, if you need to use the moderation word, you already have a problem.
Yeah. Okay.
If you need to say, well, I drink in moderation, you already got a problem. Because if you don't drink, you don't ever use the word moderation. If you're not already overdoing it, you just don't use that word. So I don't buy moderation at all. I never have. I think it's a cop out. So when it comes to alcohol, this is what we're gonna know. It always spikes blood sugar. When do we most frequently drink alcohol? Most people, it's at night. Hopefully we're not drinking a lot more, right? So we spike, hopefully, right? But it's real. I get it. I got, listen, it's real. You spike the blood sugar at night. So the sugar goes up. You might fall asleep. And when it goes down, what do you think happens to the body? It stresses the body out and it wakes you up. So that would be typically, especially when the liver turns on. So for all those people that are going to bed with their alcohol, the glass of wine and everything at night, somewhere between 1 and 3 a.m., you're going to wake up. It is what it is. You're going to have poor sleep. You're going to lower your memory. You're going to have, less deep, what we call deep sleep, less REM sleep. It's going to impact it. So here's another thing about the alcohol. So it raises blood sugar and it slows down liver function. So if your goal is, I want to lose a little weight, your goal should not be asking me what's the best alcohol, that has the least amount of sugar. I have said once or twice in my career that probably the best, I don't even want to say it, but I'm going to. Probably the best or the cleanest out there would just be like some of the high-end, super high-end tequila on the rocks. But that's as far as I'm going. Yeah.
Fair enough. What about sweeteners? Are there some sweeteners that people can use, or are there better ones?
Mm-hmm. So it goes like this. The answer is yes, but I'm also going to put an asterisk next to this. So an asterisk. So I want you to, hear me out. There are good sweeteners that are healthier for us. And we gauge a sweetener by its impact on blood sugar management. So we want to know if it's a natural sweetener, does it spike blood sugar? So if it doesn't, awesome. So when we have things like stevia is probably one of the better ones, which is really good, and monk fruit. If you get stevia, make sure it's from the whole leaf and it's organic. Yet, here's what I want to say about those sweeteners. I want everyone to be really, really careful trying to make things more sweet. I want to go back to the example of the receptors. Oh no, did I lose Karen?
Sorry, back now.
Okay. So I want to go back to the example when it comes to adding sweetener. So stevia, whole leaf organic, good. It has very little impact on spiking blood sugars. But please hold on before you go out there and jump all over stevia or monk fruit. The challenge here with them is this, is that they make things feel really, really sweet and taste really, really sweet. The good news, they don't spike blood sugar. So clinically, if I just took it for that, I'd be like, okay, that's a perfect substitute. But what I found is, listen, and again, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been doing all these cleanses, these blood sugar cleanses, and helping people lose weight. And what I found is this: if they use a lot of sweeteners, the moment they don't have the sweeteners, they can only be satisfied by eating some other source of sugar. And that is what we have to be very mindful of. So we have to, I'm going to encourage people to just let God's garden, use an apple, use a banana. Listen, I know it has a lot of sugar in it, but use the natural things instead of adding anything. If you still need to add, it tells me your receptors are not balanced, that you're still craving sweets. You're just getting a different source of it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So what about fixes? Should we talk about some of the things that people can do? So people are having these sugar cravings, you know, they're in this cycle. What are some things they can start to do to really like break out of that cycle and yeah, move themselves towards really up-leveling their health?
Yeah. Okay. So so I'm gonna break this down in 3 different categories. I'm gonna talk about things you can do physically, things that we can think about. I'm really gonna 4 categories. I'm gonna give you the supplements, and I'll tell you what, this is the scenario. The supplements are the king because I've got a couple here that will change the physiology. And when we can shrink the receptor, you'll see the power of your willpower be able to kick in. So let's go some of the physical things. But these are important as well because we want to get into the habit of, I like to kind of call you play, you pay. Meaning this, let's just say you do go out and you're going to go out and, I don't know, maybe you had a big pasta meal or something like that, no matter what it is. When you get off track, one of the smartest things you can do so we don't have inflammation breaking down the arterial wall and creating more harm within the body, burn the sugar up. How do we do that? Use your large muscles. So my 2 favorite things. 1, go to the restroom. When you're in a restaurant, excuse me, everyone, pardon me, I'm gonna go out to the restroom. Go in there, hammer out 20 deep air squats. Quads, glutes, hammer them out. Do it until you almost lose your breath. Burn up the sugar. So when you get home, you don't still have that sugar floating through the body. And these are habits that, I mean, my wife will tell you, my thing is I don't do the air squats, do push-ups.
Yeah.
I love push-ups, my answer for everything. So not having a good day, do more push-ups. You want to have more energy, do some more push-ups. You want to burn up the blood sugar, do some push-ups. So in the event you may be at home, you had a meal, you feel it, go hammer out blood, go hammer out your push-ups, large muscle groups, burn up the sugar so it doesn't stay in the body. And that, Karen, is also why I'll often get the question like, how about kids eating fruit? Good. Like, here's the deal. Give them their apple, their banana, kick them out of the house. Like, get outside, run around, burn it up. When they come home, give them some good, some good steak or something like that, like good fats, give them a good piece of fish or something like that, and build up those muscles again. But if you want to send them out for recess or send them out to the soccer field, heck, if you want to have some oranges and bananas like that, perfect. They shouldn't be eating, big old banana split before they go to bed, but nonetheless. So burn up the sugar. Get that into your head. Get that into your habit and be like, all right, got it. I may not be perfect, but in the event I get off track here, I'm going to burn the sugar out and just boost things up so you almost get yourself a little winded, whether it's your air squats or your push-ups or whatever it may be. Maybe you do jumping jacks, but get things fired up. So that would be number 1 physically. So, and then mentally. And this is an important part. Listen, I gave you the example. Cookie's sitting over here and you're like, I shouldn't eat the cookie. I shouldn't eat the cookie. We instead of telling ourselves what to do and what not to do, we got to ask questions.
Yeah.
This changes the whole game. So the beauty is that your brain will always answer the question. So it means you just got to answer a good one. Ask a good one. So if you ask yourself the question, do I need nutrients or am I emotional? Ask one of those questions. Ask them side by side. I promise you this, you're probably not hungry. You probably do not need nutrients. And by asking that question, do I need nutrients? Not am I hungry? Because you're triggered. Your brain, there's little receptors are begging you. So listen, when you get emotional, you don't feel good, those little receptors say, I got it covered, daddy. Send me some dope. I'll get you some dopamine. Send me some sugar. I'll get you some dopamine.
Yeah.
And that's what you're up against. That's the challenge, the sugar receptor. But this should be our target. This should be the number 1 thing we're learning and teaching when it comes to doctors' offices and around the country so we can literally crush this pandemic of sugar. If we understand that receptor is addicted, they're addicted to sugar because they want you to get this little dopamine push, but it leads to depression, it leads to PCOS, it leads to, you name it. It all starts with that. So that emotional part isn't wrong or right. You can't do this, you can't have that. Ask the right question. Do I need nutrients?
Yeah.
Am I emotional? At least start the programming right there.
Yeah, and you can start to. I think I talked about this in another episode. Often I get sugar cravings when I'm tired. I get really like low on energy, then I start to crave sugar. But just knowing that I am craving sugar because of that reason helps.
Yeah.
Again, taking the guilt out of it. People often talk a lot about, it's taking it back, thinking about why are you craving it? What are some of the things? And having some strategies in place. I love the one about like squats in the bathroom or something, because people, if you've got some strategies, you use when you've got a craving, you use after something like that, like a meal out. If you've got some strategies that you can grab, gives you a lot more control over being able to control some of these cravings, being able to take control of your health and really know some things that you've got in your toolbox to be able to use.
Yeah, and speaking of tired, of course, when you're tired, again, your body wants energy. Little voices start speaking, little receptors.
Yeah, my voice is getting loud.
Yeah, if you feed me, I'll give you some energy. So if we can start to be privy to that, and that's why I didn't just want to give you everyone tonight, just give them the solutions. We understand that this little biochemical game is going on within our body every single day. The beauty is here. If you stop feeding this receptor, it shrinks, and its power over you shrinks. So, and here, the flip side is this, and everyone I think that's listening to this or watching on Facebook gets this too. You go on a little binge, you eat some carbohydrates and sugar, you don't want to stop. You grow that receptor once again. And now all of a sudden the other guys can't compete. So I'm gonna give you a couple foods. In general, what I will say, and I think everyone knows this, but of course we don't want the sugar, and we want to watch the processed foods with carbohydrates, Karen. That's in a nutshell. We just have to lower our carbohydrate consumption. We definitely are going to do a show on keto. We're definitely going to do a show on fasting, and we'll dive deeper into all the different type of carbohydrates. But I'll say right now, just we've got to lower those carbohydrates and start to ask yourself, what makes us that easy? If you're asking those questions that I just mentioned, do I need nutrients? Am I emotional? By asking if nutrients, you'll always think of a different food. Your brain just brings up what foods have nutrients. Your brain does not think a loaf of bread has nutrients. It just thinks, oh, I put some other stuff on that. It's really, really good. So the quick fix or switch in foods, carbohydrates to fats.
Yeah.
So I know this sounds weird, but get back to using butter. Get back to using some nut butters. Get back to using, egg yolks. Get back to using, all the good fat things, avocados and olive oils. They satiate us. They send a signal to your brain, go, got enough. And sugar doesn't do that. So that's going to be our food shift. And a couple others here too. Do a little research. Do yourself a Google research. Look at all the foods that are bitters. Bitters, not many people like them. They're least available in the grocery stores because no one buys them anymore. But bitters, lemons and limes and arugula and kale and ginger and anything sour, sauerkraut, all of those foods, we got to wake those little starving receptors back up. We got to give them some robust things to feed on so they can create some more balance in those 4 different receptors. So those tips right there, that physical, the emotional, and then those kind of foods a shift. And now we'll get into the good stuff.
Yeah. So we've got another question on that. What percentage of our diet, and if anybody has any questions, do let us know in the chat. If you're on Facebook, let us know in the chat. What percentage of our diets needs to be carbs?
A decent question. And I don't really like to give a lot of numbers because I don't want us thinking about food that much. But here's what I would say is that I want you to eat really dense foods. Eat really good fats, eat really good proteins. But if I was less than 25% of your diet should be carbohydrates, and the rest should be full of, but then the reason I don't like a number, because what does that mean? Like how many grams does that mean? And it's all going to be different for every one of us. But really what I want you to see, so the majority of the food that we consume in total grams or calories, even though I don't like counting calories, should be fats, proteins, carbohydrates. If you have it flipped upside down, and that's how most of us, that's how I grew up, that's how you grew up, this is how our country grows up, we become very, very efficient at burning sugar for fuel and very inefficient at burning fat for fuel. And once we flip that over there, that's when you really can recognize how powerful the human body, that's when you start to recognize, man, humans are designed to be super. And that becomes part of our superhuman strategies. So let me dive into a little bit. I want to make sure I get everyone these two different supplements that are used. One is the absolute kingpin. The other, you'll find out in just a moment why most of us need this particular vitamin. So the first supplement I want to share with you guys that this is what's called the sugar destroyer. And I'll answer some more of those questions in just a moment. This is what's called the sugar destroyer. It's been around for thousands of years. Its name is called Janema. Janema is a very specific herb that's been used. It's an Ayurvedic medicine. It's been used out of India for thousands of years. And one of the reasons being because in India, they don't eat cows, so they eat a lot more carbohydrates, and they have some of the highest level of diabetes in the world. So they've known for years, one of the ways to fix that is by using this herb called Janema. So what happens here is this, and again, Karen, hopefully you'll put that in our little link here, let people have a discount at it. So listen, I'm gonna encourage and challenge every one of you, go on Janema for 30 days, 2 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 at the night, and you will downregulate your sugar receptors to the point where most of you won't be able to recognize the taste of sugar. It is that good. I'll go as far as this. It's a great party trick too. If you crush it up, put it on your tongue, whatever, and then you taste something like, say you had a cupcake or a glass of wine, you can't taste the sugar anymore. It crushes the receptor. So now you can only taste the other things. So a lot of times you'll taste the chemicals, which is wild. So like in your wine, you'll only taste the chemicals that are hidden by the sugar. So 2 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the day. And the longer you do this, the beauty is this, listen, this literally will help you lower your blood sugar levels, and I'm not telling you this, even if you don't modify the diet.
Wow.
Because it's going to stop the receptor from receiving it, and you won't get your insulin spike. So this is why I have so much success in helping people change their health and get on their superhuman track when I do my cleanses in January, is because my secret weapon, I only want all the other practitioners to know, is because I use Janema. I use all the other things to help out the pancreas, the liver, the gallbladder, all the things. But Janema is the one that makes the difference. My first experience with it, one of the practitioners who shared it with me said, put it on your tongue, a pill, swish it around your tongue as long as you can, up to a minute, 2 minutes. Now listen, this was like one of the hardest things I ever did, to try to hold this herb in my tongue for a minute. It was the worst tasting. I literally wanted to vomit. And because my sugar receptors were alive and ready, and it was crushing them. It was literally shrinking them. And then what he did, and I'll never forget this. So he had, I didn't know why, he had 2 Hershey's Kisses sitting on everyone in the audience desk. So we unwrapped one of them. We ate it prior to it. We're like, oh, that was awesome. You taste it. Then you did the Janema, and then you did the next one. It was disgusting.
Wow.
Literally disgusting.
Yeah. I haven't tried this. I'm going to try it. I would love to. Yeah. Everybody share your experience back if you try it, because this sounds,
And this is the one that for all the people out there that had that situation where you're looking at the cookie, you're looking at the donut, and you keep reaching for it, when you do have it, zero pleasure is going to come about it. You're not going to get the dopamine spike. So it just changes the entire addiction. And that's also why I feel so confident. And I don't mean this degrading anyone. I say, I think about 85% of the people in our country are not alcoholics. I think they're sugarholics. Because when I break that sugar pattern, game changes. Absolute game changes. Because alcohol is just another sugar addiction. If you're hungry, one of the things I didn't share with you, but if you're hungry all the time or you're hungry after meals, it lets me know another thing. That brings up the next supplement. So that tells me if you're hungry after meals, you're going for more sugar. There's a deeper root problem there, and it's that you have a B vitamin deficiency. So back to high school biochem or high school physiology, we learned something about the Krebs cycle. I think most of us learned, at least know what that is. And there was something that you try to produce. You throw all this stuff in this cycle, and it produces something called ATP. And that ATP is your energy. The challenge is to make ATP, you need B vitamins. You need whole food B vitamins. You need to come from nature and from natural sources. And the challenge that we have is when you eat sugar, you burn up your B vitamins at twice the rate. Alcohol burns up your B vitamins at twice the rate. Stress burns up your B vitamins at twice the rate. So essentially, clinically, almost everybody is deficient in B vitamins. So the challenge here is this: you can start eating good, but be exhausted. And I see that all the time. It's because you don't have enough B vitamins in your body. So if you really want to like go after this, get sugar out of your life, but not be completely depleted in energy. I use something called Cataplex B. And again, quality is king here. For many people are going to be like, well, I have B vitamins. I want you to go grab your bottle right now, flip it over, look at the first ingredient. The best ingredient in the world for B vitamins is liver. So the one I use, I know it sounds crazy. So liver is the absolute best source of B vitamins. So if you're old school and you're eating liver every day, you do not need B vitamins. You're good to go. I don't know a lot of people that are doing it. You guys that know me and my tribe, I try to get people to eat, liverwurst all the time. I love that stuff. It's fantastic, but it's hard to get from a good, organic, source animal. If you look in the back of Cataplex B, the very first ingredient is bovine liver. Second ingredient, organic beets. Those are the two of the richest sources of the full complex of B vitamins. And without going too much, because I literally could talk 20 minutes on just B vitamins, but B1 and B3 and B6, especially B6, which is part of the B vitamins. When we're deficient in that, when you drink alcohol, you deplete it twice the rate. When you have stress, you deplete it twice the rate. Eat sweets, you deplete it at twice the rate. When we're deficient in B6, it's one of the fastest ways that your body will start to develop these symptoms of depression. So there's some, like this vicious cycle, but this is the beauty of it. Shut off the desire to eat it, feed the B vitamins, and watch these amazing, amazing changes. Many people listen to this. If you've got a sugar addiction, if you've got your sweet tooth, you got a blood sugar management issue. And when you change this, and you flip it, you start taking this Genema, 30 to give you 30, and you don't have to stay on it. Because most of the time when you down-regulate it, you won't want to go back. Because when you go back to sugar, it will give you a headache, just like it did when you were a little kid. So truth is here, Karen, this is kind of sad, but when a baby first gets their first juice, and the first introduction to sugar, they cry, they scream, because it completely overwhelms their little nervous system. They're never designed to have that much sugar. They don't have a pancreas to handle it. Their blood sugars are completely out of balance. And we quickly addict them to it because we keep sticking it in their mouth. And then eventually the body starts to figure out how to release the dopamine. So again, mamas, I love you and I'm calling you out because listen, we're in charge of what's going into the kiddos' faces, right? It's a food face, a face to food issue here. So if you don't put the food there, we don't create these imbalances. And the beauty is fixable. Can kids take this? Absolutely. You're gonna have to sneak it in there. You have to crush it up and sneak it in something. But that Genema, literally 2 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 before you go to bed, starts to manage. And there's some amazing research out there. Just taking the Genema has helped benefit people with diabetes, like help manage blood sugar levels. Unbelievable, just taking the Genema. I'm not telling you to do that way. I don't have years, a year to fix everything. So clinically, I have to do things like that. So speed it up, get the B vitamins in there, and then we'll talk more about, how we can incorporate fasting or maybe some keto down the road.
And Kathleen asks, can you take this level of Genema forever?
You could, but I'll tell you, you won't need to. Like I really have people that need to. Some people need it for longer periods of time. A month or two. Here's the beauty of it, and that's a great question, whoever answered that. I have some people that literally keep a bottle at home. They go off their benders, they have their stuff, their carbs, and go on it for a week. They go heavy dose, 4 a day, go heavy dose, shut down the receptors. That's the power. That's the superhuman strategies. So I don't expect anyone to be perfect. Come football season, which is I pray is coming on soon. Eventually, somebody's going to sneak some chips in my house. They'll be organic, they'll be healthy, but they're going to have salt on them because my adrenals will be taxed, and they're starches, so they're going to be, completely just feeding my cravings for sugar. But I'm going to go on that bender. I'm going to go on a Sunday, and I'll just do my Genema for 2 or 3 days in a row, and boom, boom, boom. So to the B vitamins. So who do I recommend have B vitamins? Anybody who drinks alcohol, and I'm not joking about that. Part of alcoholism is a B vitamin deficiency. That is part of the clinical, technical, what actually makes someone clinically diagnosed as an alcoholic is a B vitamin deficiency. So literally, if you're drinking alcohol, you need B vitamins. That's how you need them to restore your ability to make ATP. Never mind all the things it does for your heart. B vitamins control cholesterol, like they help control cholesterol levels, so many different things. So if you have stress, you like your sweets, you drink alcohol, you need B vitamins. And the beauty is they're inexpensive. So like the thing we'll put on there, and you guys will get a nice discount, 20% off. That one bottle lasts you 3 months, but I have you take a high dose. I have you take 4 first thing in the morning. Why do I have you take first thing in the morning? Which someone was going to ask me. Because we do not want your body to be deficient, not even in at all. Provide the tools that your body will need to make energy. So if you get up in the morning, let's make sure those B vitamins are there, because we probably, or could have had a glass of wine, could have had a poor sleep, could need some energy, could have had some stress the day before. So let's bring them back.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, we've added the link in the chat. We've added it on Facebook. And so all our supplements on that link are 20% off. So just for, people who are hanging out with us on the Health Made Simple show. So hopefully that has been super valuable for everyone. I know I've learned a lot, and I've got a few extra things to try myself. So thanks, that was awesome. Hopefully we have been able to make health a little simpler for you. That's our goal of all these shows. And we will be back next week at the same time.
Got it. All right, everyone, level up. You'll be awesome.
See you later.